Hey, everybody, to all of us here at Julian Campbell Foundation. And the purpose of this video is a medley, really, to talk about the work that we do and how things started. Well, first of all, how we started as an organization, some of the work that we do, and more importantly, what's happening now, or especially since the pandemic. So I started or founded Julian Campbell Foundation in memory of my brother who had bipolar disorder. And at the time, it was an untimely death. He took his own life. I was devastated and I couldn't see a way forward. I couldn't see a life without him. It was just really difficult. It was a struggle. And I remember being in his funeral and I and like, because my family's Jamaican and we have like an open coffin. And for me, it was really poignant because in that moment there I was, and it's one of the last times that I'd be with him, really. We're just separated by life and death. And in that moment when I was speaking to everybody and, sharing the eulogy, in my mind, in my heart, that's what I wanted to do. The injustice of it all, and we couldn't find the help that we needed for my brother to be. He was already successful, but for him to have that peace of mind, and I started thinking of the impact and what I wanted to do. Now I work with children and young people. I was already a science teacher. And through the death of my brother, I got to see the impact of us as adults, teachers and parents, and the stress that we put on our young people because we care for them. But, undeniably these days, just so much stress. And I got to see the impact of what it is that we're doing with the young people, like the stress, the anxiety, the depression, and, all of the difficulties. And then I started to see the need for services such as ours, and that's how it got born, or Julian Campbell Foundation got born. And at that time, I was I loved teaching. I loved being a science teacher. I started being a consultant, so I went into difficult schools and turned them round. I absolutely loved it. Um, and then after the death of my brother, it just didn't make any sense to me anymore, because before it was like my stand was, or my purpose, I felt, was to make sure that our young people left school with some really great qualifications, because it's like a passport, and this passport, doors will open. And, of course, more good grades they've got, the more doors open and more, so that was enough to really pump me up. And then after my brother's death, it wasn't the same, because I got to see that you can have all of these qualifications, and if you don't have good mental health, then it's not the same. There's no peace of mind. There's no happiness. There's less joy, and all of these things. So that's when I started with Julian Campbell Foundation. So 2 years after the death of my brother, that was in 2007, I registered Julian Campbell Foundation. I wanted to before, but the truth is that because I was grieving so much, I just wasn't able to do what I wanted to do. So, and so in 2009, I registered it as a company and as a charity, and then started training up our first mood mentors. And I got to, and where I started from was, what would a young person, what would my brother have responded to in such a way that he'd be the best version of himself, and be alive, kicking, happy. And that's why I decided, or I chose mood mentoring as a really great place to start. So mood mentors, they're mental health mentors for young people. They're not mentors, education mentors. They're not kind of like CD borderline, or not. It's not even grades anymore, is it? But they're not mentors to train young people to get the good levels and grades that they need to do well in their exams. They're not mentors to support young people that are at risk of exclusion. These are mental health mentors. So we look specifically at mood, we look specifically at anxiety, stress, or depression, and we we have the ability, or we train the mood mentors to be able to show young people what it is they're feeling in that moment, to really be in touch with how it is that they feel, they're feeling. If they're feeling low mood, what can they put in place? What can they do to really change that and make a difference? And so that's where the concept of mood mentor started, because it's just, and it's really made a difference, because looking at mental health, it's like also as well, if once a young person knows what their mood is and knows how to change their mood, and they know about the impact of themselves on others, then all of this is emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence for our children these days is just so important. So we started off with this, developing young people, developing their mental health and well-being to be able to control or manage their mental health and well-being. And then we went from there. And helping young people to manage their mental health and well-being, we went into drama workshops, because that's a great way of really teaching exciting topics such as the dangers of social media, body image, but also showing young people how to measure and manage their moods as well at the same time. And this is what we've been doing. And then before the pandemic, we stayed being a small charity in Enfield in North London, which there's nothing wrong with that, because I was really pleased that we were able to have an impact on young people's lives through our mentoring. That's our flagship course, or through drama workshops and dance workshops. And then with the pandemic, we weren't able to do anything because, of course, the schools were closed. We were unable to work in groups. We were unable to do face-to-face mentoring. I was concerned for the children that we're supported, because the school had closed and we didn't have any way or means of contacting the young people. I was just thinking to myself, I got more nervous as time went on, like, what is going to happen with these young people? Where are they? Well, how come we can't get hold of them? And what we managed to do pretty quickly is to change all of our resources and services, so they all went online, which was amazing, because then we were able to mentor online. And also the drama workshops. I mean, I couldn't believe when we did our drama workshops, and we did them online, because my friend Biliana, she said, look, like, let's just give it a go. And we decided we were going to use Zoom, because schools are more au fait with Zoom. And we did just that. And first of all, we did a little pilot, because it's really good to just try something out with a small group of people first. And we had 6 teenagers, or secondary school children, taking part in the seminar and in the training. And we were looking at specific topics: dangers of social media, body image, and there was a couple of others, but these ones really stick out in my mind. And then after we did the day of the drama workshop, we had some feedback from the young people. And personally, I was shocked. I was shocked to see how they enjoyed it and how it had made an impression on them. And I remember hearing one of them saying, well, this is what interested me. I came because I was really interested in seeing about, the workshop on body image. And now I've changed my perception. I can see this now. I can see that now. So that was really interesting. And also as well, the dangers of social media. Another young person was saying, this is what I came specifically for. And I really think it's great for me to know now. I wasn't aware that when you write something down on one of these social media platforms, that it's like a tattoo, or a footprint that stays there forever. And when I'm looking for work later on in life, there's going to be an impact. So it was just really good. And I was blown away, not for myself, because I just thought, well, It's not possible. How can you do a drama workshop as a Zoom call? This is about face-to-face stuff. It's the only way that it works. But I stand to be corrected, because these young people said so, and they said that it really made a difference for them. So that was in August, just before the school started back in 2021. And so in December the 14th, coming towards the end of the first term, when young people were back after the pandemic, we led our first drama workshop. It was online. Not one of us could enter into the school, not even one of us. We had to respect the rules of social distancing and everything. And we led a drama workshop to 300 young people. There were 28 of us from all over the world. We had team members in China, in Bulgaria, in France, in Colombia. I was stuck in Colombia because the borders were shut. The USA and different places. And so there was 28 of us coming in. And also as well, there were teachers in each of the 10 classrooms where we were. And it was just an amazing experience. And the way that we did it is that we had two main topics: the dangers of social media, and then we had body image. And for each one, we had a young person speaking about their experiences. So one was speaking about her experiences with anorexia and how she'd overcome that. Then we did our workshops. And then later on, one came and talked about her experiences being groomed online. And it really impacted the young people, because what they saw was, it isn't just one conversation. Like this person, this man was grooming this young girl over 2 or 3 years, and they were actually just about to meet before we started the mentorship and started supporting her. So it was really impactful, because like they told their stories, and then the children asked questions, and then we went back to our drama workshops, and we carried on like that for quite some time. So when many other charities were closed or in furlough, we were continuing, and that's a time of our biggest growth. We got volunteers to come from different countries in the world, and we were processing like we've got our disclosure and barring checks in the UK, or the DBSs as they're called, and and then in America we had the FBI, so the volunteer would have to go into the police station and be fingerprinted and have that kind of like passed and checked. And in different countries, they had different ways of checking. And so it was all incredible. And we managed to do all of the mentor training, which is accredited online. So that's how that's what we've been doing. And then since the pandemic, we've been continuing, and basically as well, like now we have a team in Colombia, and our psychologist Jessica works in Bogota there, and then we've got another psychologist working in Cartagena, and we've got a site in Florida that we've started up, that was registered last year, and of course we've got the one in the UK, and we've got a team now working in France. So we're making a difference, through our work in different countries, working with young people, and it's quite a profound kind of support that we're doing for them. So some of them is more coaching, some of them is more psychological support that they need, and this is what we've been doing. And of course, now schools are back open, so we're going back to the drama workshops, we're going back to the dance workshops, and all of these things, because it's really important. So that's just a little bit about how the charity begun and where we are now. And in the next section, I want to talk more about the emotional intelligence, because why emotional intelligence? There's not much that we can do these days, because we're in a time where everything is just transferring, is just not transferring, it's transforming so quickly. So when I was at school back in the day, we learn lots of things. I think like maybe rote learning was the key thing there, and that doesn't serve us anymore. I remember growing up in a time when like my mom used to be a secretary, and a lot of these kind of jobs, she used to do kind of like shorthand and typing. A lot of these kind of jobs now are redundant, and I think in the same way that we have our children in school now, we've got this thing called artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence means that a lot of the jobs that I mean, I used to be a science teacher. I don't know like whether that could be redundant, and maybe a lot of it can be done online, as was shown in the pandemic. I'm not quite sure, what the future of that is, but but with artificial intelligence, a lot of jobs are going to be made redundant. And so we're in a world that is changing really, really rapidly. And plus as well, like when I was a kid, like bullying was usually just in the school. And now it starts it, or it gets worse or goes to another level when the child gets home, because their peers are online and saying all of these things and bullying online. And I've heard of stories and cases where young people as young as 7 and 8 years old have been bullying their peers, like an online bullying. So it's our young people in this day and age, they're existing and growing up in a time that is really unprecedented. We've never seen anything like this before. And the growth is, there's so much stimuli these days. Um, and young people are probably even just encouraged to grow up too quickly. And so they're not experiencing what it is to be young anymore. So there's a lot going on there. So the real consistency is securing that our young people have high levels of emotional intelligence, for them to be responsible for their own mental health and well-being, for their own physical health. And part of that would be for them to know how they're feeling, know what their mood is, and know how to change it and how to amend it. Because this is, because lots of research has shown that young people that have high displayed amounts of emotional intelligence, they're more successful in work, they have better relationships outside work, they have better interfamilial relationships, better relationships, they're happier, they're healthier, they get married earlier, or they have a spouse or a partner, that they stay with that partner as well. There's just so many so many advantages. They get rapid promotion because they're aware of the impact of themselves and their emotions on those around them, and they know how to manage themselves. So in a world that's rapidly changing with all of this technology and all of this emotional intelligence, by us guaranteeing and helping our young people and giving them that gift to be able to manage their mental health and well-being, is just an incredible thing. And it's something that is just really important. It's something that's always going to be consistent and something that's always going to be needed. I mean, some young people, or some people, I've heard people say, well, I was isolated from before the pandemic. And maybe they were, but I self-isolated from before the pandemic. But we're in a world where you can make a choice. You can isolate yourself or you can be amongst people. But having or displaying high amounts of emotional intelligence is really important. And it's a really important legacy for our children, for them to be able to manage themselves. And as their parents, their carers, and the next generation, is important that we are that change. And we show young people through our behavior how we manage our mental health and well-being, that they can learn from us. And a lot of this is written in my first book here, Runs in the Family. And I just want to say as well, so we are promoting this book in Spanish as De Familia on the 1st of June this year. So that everybody's really excited about that. It's due to popular demand. And in my book, I talk about the charity and how it came to be, and the kind of work that we do in the foundation. But the reason why I bought the book, I wrote the book, was because I saw that lots of parents that we were supporting, and lots of young children as well that we were supporting, I saw that sometimes there was something missing from the parents, that they weren't taking adequate care of themselves. And so this book was to a younger parent, so a parent maybe with, with their child, and how that parent, what they could put in place, what they need to put in place to be really powerful and develop themselves and young people that are really strong emotionally wise, with high levels of emotional intelligence. And so this is how it all started. So a lot of parents, that I've worked with, they forget about themselves, and they're in the lives of their children. And I understand it must be really, really difficult when you see your heart outside of your body, like running around, and and they are struggling, or they're suffering with their mental health, and they're going through all of these things. And a lot of parents that I've seen and worked with, they don't have those boundaries. But first of all, before that, they're not taking care of themselves, and they're taking care of their child. And we know as well that, for those of you that jump onto the aeroplane, that's the first thing they say when they're doing that little presentation at the beginning of the flight. The first thing they say is that you put on your own oxygen mask first. You don't put on somebody else's first without yourself. And this is precisely what I mean. I've seen a lot of parents, and they're putting the oxygen mask on their children, but they're forgetting themselves. And it's really important that they remember themselves, and they give themselves that kind of, like, that right, or give themselves the first place to be able to manage themselves, because this is like role modeling their behavior and everything to their children, and the children will learn from that. This is why it's so important. So when I say, like, they're neglecting themselves, they really need to give themselves what they need. So this can be like any activities or favorite activities, because quite often a parent, and I understand that a parent is so worried about the young person in their life, that they forget about themselves and what it is that they want to do. They forget to feed themselves. Like, this is literally, like, emotionally. So all of the things that they enjoy doing, um, as a hobby, they stop doing, and the good foods, they stop. They just stop all of that, and they focus on the child, and that just doesn't work. It doesn't work, because in forgetting about themselves, they're not they're not providing adequate, like, being an adequate role model, for their child. So first of all, it's really putting themselves first, and making sure, not saying you be selfish, but you have to, because you're the source and you're the carer, that you have to really take care of yourself first, and then all the other things will follow suit. So that means eating well and having healthy eating habits, making sure that you have time for yourself. It can be like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes a day, however long it is, it needs to be fixed. Something, a time where you can do whatever it is that you want to do. And this is really, really important. And I've seen parents as well that, something might happen. So I don't know, let's say, they might fail an exam, and they hide it from their child. And the good thing about showing it to your child is that your child gets to see how you behave and how you manage yourself in the face of adversity. It doesn't matter what it is. And I know as parents, we want to, that, like, looking good. We don't want to share anything that might distress them or anything like that. But what we're actually showcasing is that we are managing something, and we're managing it in a certain way. And then we talk about that. So for example, if there's something happened with the driving test, then it's worth getting present to that. Well, I haven't passed this time, It's a shame because I would have wanted to take you to school. I want to take myself to work. I'll be able to save time. And, and this is what I'm going to put in place. So what is it that you're going to put in place? Are you going to take it again? Are you never going to take it again? Are you going to stop for a while and then start doing the driving lessons? It's really by showcasing that is really, really important, because young people, it's difficult for them to be with failure because they see themselves as the failure. They don't see that maybe it was something they didn't do enough of work, enough study, enough focus, and they make it mean something about themselves. And this can be the downfall, because then they're not able to get up and go forward because they're judging themselves. So it's really, really important for us as adults, if we don't pass something, if we're not successful, then we look at the reasons behind that and we can share that, because the young person is there looking at what we're doing, and we're modeling like what we're doing and who we are, and this is something that will happen to them. Like once they it's their turn and they've got an exam to do or something like this, and if it doesn't go well, then what are they going to put in place? Are they going to be downhearted or down or downhearted and crestfallen, and not talking with anybody, or locking themselves away, or doing all this, that, and the other? Or are they going to deal with it powerfully and in a way that's responsible? So that's why it's really important to showcase what it is that we're doing. Also, as well, I see that parents aren't putting sufficient boundaries down, and it's harder to get the boundaries back afterwards, but it's always worth doing it. So as an ex-teacher, um, I and it takes about 3 years to develop as a teacher. I When I started, it was just really difficult. I didn't have a clue, and then I learned something which in those days was called assertive discipline, like about no more than 5 rules of the classroom. And it was more or less like, no throwing things in the air, um, no shouting out. You put your hand up first if you want to say something. No leaving the chair without permission. Keep your hands and your feet and objects to yourself. This one really got a laugh. The kids loved that one. And just with a few basic rules, and young people, they know how to behave as well. With a few basic rules, I was able to transform my teaching environment, which it was just like, 1 minute I'm teaching and we're doing a practical, and then the next minute there's a fight, and I couldn't distinguish and determine like what was at the source of it. What is it that I did do or didn't do that caused this? And I saw that just to have some simple rules that were made together between myself, but I'd leave it in the hands of the young people to guarantee learning. And it just transformed the environment totally. And the lessons were just calmer. The results were great, and it was just more enjoyable. And if there was somebody doing something naughty and they were contradicting the rules that we'd set as a classroom, I wouldn't say anything. I'd just make a note of their name, because the good thing about that was that not to give any attention to anybody that wasn't regarding the rules, but give attention to those that were regarding the rules. And what I've seen is that some parents, for example, they don't have that kind of those boundaries, and because there's a lack of boundaries, then the young people in their lives are kind of like running the show. So what that might look like, for example, is that young people, they'll come back from school, they might do their homework, they want to go onto the internet, and they go onto the internet for hours and hours and hours. And there's some young people that they're on the internet and they're on their mobile phones for 7+ hours a day. In my time, it used to be Dallas and Dynasty that we watched on TV. And now it's not TV, because they get to watch what they want, and they get all their social media, and it's unrestricted as well, because like when I was watching Dallas and Dynasty, I was watching it with my mom and dad. And these days, like, young people, I mean, in actual fact, do you know that 80% of 10-year-olds, under 10-year-olds, have seen some kind of like pornography or nude images, have just been really impacted and distressed with all of that. So a lot of young people are gaining access to all of these things, and the parents are none the wiser and not able to guide them and show them. So so we have young people that are on their mobiles for several hours of the day, and really the recommended guidelines is that it's no more than 2 hours in the daytime, and in the weekends it's about 3 hours, no more than 3 hours. And there's some people that say, well, I don't think young people should have any social media or anything at all. Personally, I think, and for what I've seen, it's good for our young people to have access to some social media. So even if it's like a minimum of, I don't know, half an hour or an hour or something like that, because they need to be shown how to use these facilities and use these instruments wisely. And if they don't have access to it, and then they leave home or they're at uni or whatever, then they suddenly have access to all of these things because they don't have anyone to show them how to use it. It can be, it can end badly. It can be quite negative. So it's really, really good. Hey there, thank you for joining. Any questions that you've got, please ask. So yeah, so it's really good for parents to be able to be there to show young people how to use this, the social media, because 90% of our young people are using multiple platforms of social media. And that's another story which I'll go on to next. So we need to give them access to some, but not too much, because too much isn't really good. And then there's a lot of research to show that it's not only the social media and the access to the social media, but also the light, because the light disrupts the serotonin production. And of course, serotonin is linked with the mood. And we know that the mood as well, like lack of serotonin, will bring young people to depression. So is it really good for young people to be using their mobiles with the light that is given off in going right into the nighttime? So a good thing would be to have them finish their homework, and then have them finish finish the social media around 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock at the latest, but 9 o'clock is good. Have it all switched off, because continuing into the night can disrupt sleep, and then all kind of things can start happening, because by that time, because it's impacting the serotonin production, it starts impacting the health, the mental health as well as the physical health. So therefore we've talked about we've looked at how the charity has started, and now we've been looking more at emotional intelligence. And now I just want to go on into the third part, really looking at the pressures that our teenagers are facing. So we as parents and carers can be really aware, and we know what to look out for. So this was like meeting up with our mentors. So we have mentors that go into school and support children and help them with their mental health and well-being. And I've been doing that since the lockdown. And there's various things that our young people are dealing with. And some of them are afraid to tell their parents. Hey, good afternoon. Any questions? Please write them down. So our young people, they just feel a lot of pressure, because parents, of course, love them. They want them to do well. And they really want them to do well. And, there's nothing wrong with that. Our young people have this pressure to achieve. And because parents, we want them to go to the best schools, the best colleges, the best universities. And also as well, like when I was a teacher as well, I was part of all of that, putting pressure on our young people, because we want them to do well. And because of the pressure, it really impacts them and their ability to learn. And our mentors sit down with these young people and show them strategies to manage their mental health, to manage their stress, to manage their anxiety. So that's one thing. And also as well, like, there's stress for our young people to be the best. We're in a world or an environment where um, there is not really a failing culture. And remember, before I talked about failing, and it's just a failure of performance. It doesn't mean that the person that we've failed, or with the young person that's watching us, that they've failed. It's always something that they haven't done enough of, or something that's been missing, that they need to take care of. So it's really having that responsibility. A lot of young people, when I was teaching, they'd want to be reality stars, or being X Factor and things like this. And this is all well and good. It's because it seems to be the way now to get out there and share your talent. But a lot of it as well, the work has to be put in. And so it's really showing our young people how to achieve their goals and goal setting. It isn't just about looking good or being in the right place at the right time. They need to be shown how to achieve their goals, not working too hard, but not putting nothing in and expecting something as well. So it's just a mixture of work and rest and relaxation. And this can be the same thing as well, like when they're studying for their exams. It's really good. And I've seen where it works best, where parents sit down with the young person in their life and they start doing all of the it's really good to start at the beginning of the academic year and do a little timetable, and help them do it, because by the time they get to uni, or they're later on in life, whenever they have a little project, they can start breathing their own life into it by looking at what it is that they need to do and scheduling things. So it's really good for parents or carers to sit down with a young person and start looking at what they need to do, and having, you've got the school in the day, and what's going on in the holidays, making sure that it's a balanced curriculum, so they're not working all the time, that they've got a little break, that they're doing some activities, that they're with their friends, and to have that balance, because it's that balance that you're creating with them while they're in their formative years, that they will take into adulthood with them. And so another thing that young people are dealing with, apart from challenging schedules and overwhelming pressure, can be harassment. And this seems to be happening, or bullying. This seems to be happening more since the pandemic, actually. The young people that maybe were 11 years old, or year 7 in the time of the pandemic, they're now growing their year 10, year 11, about to take their exams. And a lot of teachers have said, a lot of mentors that work with children in our meetings have said that there's a lot of conduct or defiance that's going on now, the more going on now than was going on before. And there seems to be a lot more harassment. And this is due to a lack of emotional intelligence, a lack of compassion or empathy. So emotional intelligence is just so important, rather than looking at one person and blaming them or bullying them. To develop levels of compassion, this can be a way of helping a young person deal with what they're dealing with. And then, as what I've noticed is, with a lot of parents that I've spoken with and young people that I've spoken with, that the bullying seemed to a lot of them, it was that the key stage 2, key stage 3 changeover. So when they were going from primary school to secondary school, that the disruption in that time has really impacted them negatively. And they, and I've seen situations where people that have been bullied through, because of their color, their race, their gender, their sexual orientation, their weight, their height, their religion or disability, all of those things, that that people are called names, and this impacts a person for such a long time and impacts their ability. And sometimes it can be that bad that they turn into school refusers. They don't come into school. They don't have their education, and then that gets transferred as they get older. Then they don't go to work and they're not functioning in society. So a lot of young people are dealing with being called names and making it really stop them in what it is that they're doing and really impact them in their future. So and other pressures can be lack of exercise or lack of eating healthy foods. This will also impact the focus, the concentration. So it can be really difficult for our young people young people need the guidelines. The government guidelines is 1 hour, 1 hour exercise a day. Doesn't need to be all, an hour at once. It doesn't need to be anything too violent or vigorous. It can be, 5 or 10 minutes, kind of like chopped up throughout the day. But young people need 1 hour's exercise a day, whereas us as adults, we need a minimum of 40 minutes a day. And research has shown actually that by with young people and older people that were sedentary, after and they had levels of anxiety and depression after 2 weeks of regular exercise, that their levels of anxiety and depression had really calmed down. So exercise is just like a natural antidepressant. So there's lots of so we're talking about the pressures that young people are dealing with. So we're talking about exam pressures, we're talking about relationships. So it could be romantic relationships or friendships as they're growing up and they're adapting to all of this. And bullying can be part of that, because young people are not able to, they haven't got the emotional development, emotional intelligence to be able to act. And the great thing about emotional intelligence is that it can be transferred, it can be taught. So a lot of our young part of our course with our mood mentors is that the mood mentor works with the young person to show them how to manage their moods and how to change their mood so it can be more positive. So it's really, really good. So we looked at the pressure that young people are under to gain good grades. We look at the pressure that they're under to be perfect, to do good work. We looked at the schedules, because like our young people need schedules to support them in achieving the goals that they want to achieve. So something that isn't too rigorous or challenging. There's something that's balanced. We talked about bullying, and also as well, like, poor eating habits or exercise as well. All of this can impact mental health or well-being. So I want to thank you for being and watching this video, because like we've talked about in the first part about JCF, like Julian Campbell Foundation, and how it all began and until now. And then in the second half, we're looking at parents and what parents can bring to the table to be role models, because like contrary to popular belief, it's not about Instagram models and all this, that and the other. Like young people are learning from the people that are closest to them, the people that are nearest to them and dearest to them, and we're the ones that can show them how to manage their mood, how to develop their mental health and well-being, and how to grow in that way to give them more success in their relationships, for them to be happier, for them to be happier in their relationships. And now for the final part, we're going to be talking about what happens now. What is it that we're going to do now in the foundation? So in the foundation, we as I said to you before, we started up in 3 continents, I think it is now. So we've got something that we started in the UK, and since the pandemic, we've got a site in Florida, in the USA, in Colombia, and we're starting up in France as well. And we're continuing, because it's our flagship training, like the mood mentoring. It's like we're supporting young people, but it's around their mental health or well-being, around their emotional intelligence. So we're coaching them around that, or mentoring them around that. A lot of studies have shown that mentoring has been really, really great for young people and their mental health, but it hasn't really been the outcome that they've looked at. But what they've found is, when they've researched and analysed, have found findings that it's impacted the mental health in a positive way of young people. And unfortunately, a lot of these mentoring programs, they've had to stop because they've run out of funding. There's no more money to be able to continue it. So even though it brings all of these benefits, we haven't really been able to continue we haven't really been able to continue for a long time, despite the fact that it shows that it's just been so beneficial for our young people to have these services and have this one-on-one support around their mental health and well-being, and helping them with their emotional intelligence. And so I just want to say again, so a lot of what I've spoken about is in my first book, Runs in the Family, because Runs in the Family talks about how the charity began, how to, as a parent, as a young parent, make sure that we are examining ourselves, and we're coming from that we're emotionally intelligent, that we're giving ourselves, that we've got our boundaries there, that we are giving ourselves what we need, instead of not giving ourselves anything, giving it to our children, because that doesn't work as well. And that we're eating, that they're acting in a way that's healthy, because our children are going to copy that and go on to their lives. And I was just speaking with our psychologist, Jessica, and she was telling me about the young people that she's working with. And a lot of the time, the young people, there's only so much you can do with the young people, because sometimes, or more often than not, it's the parents that are not managing themselves or managing their mental health and well-being. And because of that, it's impacting the next generation. So this is really, none of us are perfect, and it's really good for us to look at ourselves and how to manage ourselves better, so we're that role model for children. So and on the 1st of June, we have our book translated, or Runs in the Family, is the Familia, being released. And then later this year, we have it in French, C'est de famille. So I'm going to put a link underneath this video for Runs in the Family. So this book it encompasses most of the things, or all of the things that I've spoken about: the history of the charity, some of the case studies, and the young people and the families that we've been working with, and also what we need to bring to the table as adults, as parents, as carers, to make sure that our young people are taking care of themselves. So we need to be taking care of ourselves and giving ourselves the time, the nutrition that we need, and and valuing ourselves as well. And putting down some firm boundaries there, and having those boundaries supported as well, because this is all really important. So I'm going to leave the link of Runs in the Family underneath, and also as well in future videos, I'll be leaving other information about our Es de Familia, the translation that's in Spanish, and also as well, if anybody is interested as well, because speaking with the psychologist, we are going to deliver some training for parents, looking at a lot of what we've looked at today. So looking at boundaries, looking at what we can put in place as parents and carers for ourselves, to make sure that we are, we're really powerful around our support of our children, that they're not running amok, for example, and on the internet, and without any awareness of the dangers, that we're monitoring that and how to monitor it. There's some really great ways of doing that, like switching off the internet at certain times, because there's no one to argue with at that point. And then children are so bored, then they'll soon go to bed, because the lack of sleep really does contribute towards the mental health. So we'll be running the courses. We'll be running it in Spanish, and we'll be running it in English. We're running them in English as well. So if you know somebody that is interested, and we'll be working together with our psychologists and our team of mentors as well. And we'll be able to provide coaching to parents and support, then please do message us. Please do write and ask us for more information, because we'll be able to, give it to you. And because it's the first time that we're doing this course as well, it will be really great to have you on board. As just to have, we're looking for five families or five people that we can give free membership to, so we can work together with you. And you can contact us on Jackie@JulianCampbellFoundation.org, and I'll write that down under the video as well if you want to contact me, or if you want to ask any questions about this video as well. That it will be, I'll happily answer them. So in the last part of this video, I want to talk about what it is that we're doing next with the charity, what else we're doing, because that's more on the clinical and medical side. So we have supported hundreds of young people, or thousands of young people and their families, through our mentoring program, through our dance, and through our drama workshops. And we're coming to celebrate, because that was 14 years ago. So it's 14 years ago, 15 years ago. So it started in 2009. And so we are now contacting all of the young people that we're supported through mentoring, because we're in the process of giving awards. So some of them, we started mentoring them when they were teenagers, like between 12 and 15 years old. And now they're in their 20s, or sometimes they might not even be in their 30s. And we're contacting them to find out the impact of the services and other services on their lives. And in September the 29th, we're going to hold a youth awards. So I'll be able to tell you more information about the celebrities that we're inviting to that as well, because if you have followed us, we've had quite a few celebrities supporting our charity, including Heather Small and Tito Jackson, Denise Pearson, and Glenn McCrory, as well as others. And Tito Jackson actually wrote the foreword in my book, Runs in the Family, and my book that I wrote after that as well. So we're going to have a real big celebration later on this year in September, where we give awards to the children or the young adults now that we supported all of those years ago, and really celebrate who they are and what they've achieved for their lives. And also, as well, August is a really important month for us. August the 17th used to be my brother's birthday, and now it's Youth Mental Health Day. It's an International Youth Mental Health Day. So August for us is just a really important month. And we do all of these kind of activities. So maybe you're a person, or somebody or a company that want to that's really into social corporate responsibility, that want to do a bit of fundraising and do some and do an activity that will really bond you together. And for that reason, we have a couple of activities actually. One of them is skydiving. So this is skydiving as a tandem jump. And so it's just amazing. I did it twice, and I'm going to do it again later this year. But this time I'm going to jump out on my own with no tandem. So that's really exciting. But maybe you might want to jump with a tandem, and raise money for Julian Campbell Foundation at the same time, to help us go and do more of our work, to impact our work, to get into more schools, to make a difference to more children. So if you are a company and you are a group of people and you're interested in doing that, it's really great for bonding. And it's really great as well, because once you do that, then you'll see other breakthroughs. You think, oh, the first time when I did it, I thought, oh, I've jumped out of a plane, now I can do this, I can do that. All of a sudden, the things that I was resisting before just seemed quite futile. So if you know anybody that would be interested, or you yourself are interested, please do contact us. And I'm going to put those links down as well underneath the video. And for those of you that are into fun runs and want to do something really healthy, you can run or you can walk. We actually have a run which is going to be on the 29th of June, which is a Saturday. at Friends of Furs Park, or Furs Farm Park, which is in Enfield. So you'll have an opportunity to run or walk 5K. And if you can't come and you still want to take part and do something virtually, then you can do that as well. So isn't that amazing? So I was speaking with Jessica this morning, our psychologist, and she's going to do something in Colombia on the same day. And so that way we'll be participating all over the world. So no matter where you are, you can still influence and make a difference to youth mental health. So we've got the skydiving. Now, the skydiving can be any time in the summer months. So it can be any time from, I would say, because now we're coming towards the end of April. So the best months are June, July, August, September. So if you have a group of people and you're interested in getting together, then you can contact us and we can give you coaching and help you prepare for that. Or if you're more of a runner or a walker, then the 29th of June might be your thing, whether you want to come to London or whether you want to do it where you are. Both of them are possible, so that's great. And please as well, if there's any information that you have or you're interested in knowing more about our Youth Awards Ball, which is in the end of September, then please do ask us for more information. And also as well, if you're a parent, and we're looking for 5 families that we can support, or 5 parents that we can, because we've got this beta course that we're just kind of like trying out. And it will have a lot of information that I've written in Runs in the Family, and it will be present itself as an online workshop, like a Zoom call, and also individual coaching as well, and support to help you and your family with what you're dealing with. So there's quite a lot of requests there, and I'll write them down under the video. And so thank you for watching this video. It's just been really great speaking. I haven't spoken in such a long time, for such a long time. So it's just really great sharing with you all about how we began and some of the work that we do and where we're going now. So no matter where you are in the world, if you're in America or, please do contact us, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have, because even if you are in America, in Colombia, we'll be working on that side of the world. So we'll still be able to support you or give you some advice. So thank you again for watching this video. If there's any questions, I'm just going to check some questions here. And a question here is, why do you do this? It's a very good question. Why do I do this? It's almost like through the death of my brother that I felt I found my raison d'être. That it's that I felt there was something missing. That there needs to be more of us as standing for our young people, to leave them a legacy. And I want us to be in a world where our young children and young people don't think of suicide as an option or something, an option that's available for them. And I believe that really focusing on them through talk and talking therapies and getting them to talk about things that they've never talked about before, getting them to add reasoning to it and to be able to deal with it and leave it to one side and go on through their life a bit lighter is just such a gift. So it's something that I started, and it's something that I'll continue doing. And I know that things would have got better when our suicide rates are going down and our young people are displaying more higher levels of emotional intelligence. So I'll continue doing that until we've got that in our schools, or even for those of you that are not in schools or don't want your children to be in schools. There's still a big community out there, so you can do home learning. So that's something as well that we can talk about on future sessions. And if there's anything else as well, I'm just looking to see what else we can talk about on future sessions. Just looking there, so we can talk about home learning. And please to write down as well anything that you'd like us to speak about, anything to do with youth mental health, anything to do with youth emotional intelligence, anything to do with how we as adults and us as parents can, you know, what is it that we can do that really impacts young people and gives them, you know, gives them, you know, gives them what it is that they need to be able to live happy, healthy lives and enjoyable lives as well. It's just so important these days. So, so thank you again for watching this video. Thank you for being with me and popping in and asking questions. And yeah, that's it now. I'm just going to leave a summary of, so the first 15 minutes we're talking about the charity and how it started and how it got to be where it is today. And then the second part, we're looking at what we can do as parents and carers to help our children have high displayed emotional intelligence. The third part of the third part, or the next 15 minutes until 1:45, we started talking about the challenges our young people are faced with in this day and age, which is more than what we were faced with when we were young. And the fourth, the final part is looking at the activities in the foundation that we have now. And I forgot to add one thing. If you want to be trained up as a mood mentor and you really see yourself as making a difference and making a difference in somebody's life, please do reach out, because we've got our next training starting in June. And it will be a pleasure to be able to have you on board, making a difference and saving young people's lives. So thank you for watching our video. Thank you for popping in. Thank you for the questions that you've asked. And I'll see you next week in the next video. Bye.